Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me. 6 days we work, then we bask. We leave the noise to hear Yah's voice. We listen, we learn, we struggle to know. We walk with Yah through the mikray. Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me.
Well, welcome to Family Hour. It's my pleasure to be with you. We have a wonderful cast of characters. Kevin, you had your mom there just a moment ago. She's not going to join us for the show. She was just there for quick introduction.
She just wanted to drop in and say hi to everybody. Yep. She's going to watch the show on the couch. So
she is more than welcome to participate anytime she wants to. Well, you are the son, so she can tell you pretty much anything she needs to say, right?
Yeah. It's close.
Yeah, we want to sometime get her view on 19 hours of driving where she got an earful.
Right. Oh yeah. We can do that story. So maybe we'll do it on camera. We'll get one of the guys together, Maddie or somebody, and do it on cam. So
I love it. Dr. Jeff, how are you, man? You're looking good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a momentous week of revelation, acquisition of knowledge and understanding, a tsunami of bien. Congratulations.
Tsunami of bien. It really has been. Yeah, we just finished all of the edit input of 3 volumes of Coming Home, 4, 5, and 6, collectively 2,000 pages of new translations and insights. We've got, I think, a little more fact-checking probably to do before we take them to being published, but it's the only time I ever attempted to write 3 books at one time. That's a hefty tax, I'll tell you. But we have a wonderful team of editors now and fact checkers. JK has been at it now for almost 20 years, and he's marvelous at it. Michelle has joined the chorus in the process, and Mike has been our diligent fact checker really from the beginning, going back 20 years. So the team does a nice job. It's just a bit overwhelming when you're dealing with 2,000 pages as opposed to in the past I always did 1 chapter at a time, and now we did 3 whole volumes at a time. So it was a lot to process, but glad to have it done. And I saw your new digs there,
did you?
Mr. Kirk. Yeah, that is really, really fine living. Man, there were like 87 different places you could have your studio. Wow. What's amazing is it's probably less expensive than the house you had in Carmel, but it's 10 times the house.
No debt. That was the big game.
Oh my goodness. But the land is gorgeous. What a beautiful swimming pool and spa that it has. Some of those ceiling treatments, the architectural.
It was a beauty. Yeah. Every detail is real. And
those details. Wow. Just absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really, really like it. And
I appreciate that, being an architect almost yourself. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. And very contemporary looking. It's but yet set in those rugged looking woods and the trees and the rocks and it's just gorgeous.
That's what I still get to paint the garage going to Sylvie.
Yeah, but it looks like it's a 3-car. It looks like a 3-car garage.
Well, it's a biggie. But
it's a biggie. Yeah.
She took what they call the pool house, and that's where she's going to paint. And
I heard that. Yeah. Well, I don't blame her. It's a lovely spot.
Great place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely spot. Yeah. But it looked like there were other places inside the main house too that you could set up a studio and.
Yeah, well, I'll do the drawing part, and actually the shows from the thing called a den, which is in part of this living room off to the side. That'd be very nice.
That's exactly where I would put my my canvas, and I would paint. The light's beautiful there. It's just a perfect location. Of course, you got the kitchen refrigerator right by, which is always handy. Yes, indeed. So I think you're pinch hitting for us today, Will. Isn't that the case? You got the call at the last minute. Yeah, JB has family duty today. I think he had a member of the family, unfortunately, that had passed away. So he's dealing with that. And so you were recruited at the 11th hour.
Yeah. If you want to traffic with Yah, you got to be ready.
You got to be ready, man. You got to be ready to play. And you have the new manuscripts.
Yep. Got them all in.
I think they were only sent about 2 hours prior to the show, so it might make it a bit much for anybody to have read them. I'm sure you've read them already, though, haven't you, Lynn?
The what?
The what?
Sorry.
What are you doing?
The manuscripts. What manuscripts?
I sent you the program notes for this program tonight.
Oh no.
Of course.
I was working on something else.
Okay. there we go. But Rich, I know you got it because it's up on the teleprompter.
Yes.
And it's even the place where Kevin was given the option of choosing where we would start tonight. I made 2 recommendations. He made a third, and we're going to go with the recommendation. So there you have it. In fact, we're going to play Luminaries before we start this Luminary presentation. It's actually going to be an analysis of the 4th chapter of Zakar'yah, and we're going to correctly identify the trees that are on either side of the Manowrah. And we have Perry off to the side. Perry, you're going to be ready to contribute. I think you have begun reading this material. Yeah. All right. So you chime in anytime you're ready. You'll be the invisible man voice. All right. Why don't we spin it up and we'll play the Luminaries. That'll get us in the right mood for this. You do have a very nice presentation there, Kevin. You're out there on the sky.
It's been a
deck.
while.
Yeah.
We're not using the outdoor studio because of the weather, and I figured, you know what? No one else is going to use it. I'll use it. You know?
Yeah, man, that's just gorgeous. A beautiful picture of Buck Island National Park, the marina in the foreground, the national park in the background. Whoa, we have Wookie has just decided that he's going to step over
Into
and around and through. Oh, I'm going to bring you up there, Wookie. My
mic cord.
My mic cord. And ears. That was going to be an interesting deal. So we'll go ahead and play the songs while Wookie gets a drink, and we'll take it from there.
Yahowah made one to lead us out of Babel, one to call us by our name, guiding souls from lies and fog into covenant flame. Dowd walks first with courage, a shepherd's steady pace, not to be adored in vain, but to reveal Yahowah's name. Yada shows the path with the Torah pointing the way, turning shadows into sunrise, bringing night to the day. Two luminaries shining on the road back home, kindness in the morning,
am going to always smile and always love
You should.
the Asher
Asher as a DJ.
outro of Miss Plumeria doing her thing. You are beautiful, Asher. She's sitting here looking at me right now.
Oh, pretty.
Pretty, Asher. Marvelous. I think it is probably a reasonable idea to explain how we got to the material that we're going to be covering this evening and how it came to be that I was writing 3 volumes of Coming Home. That's the series where we begin on Dowd's Mizmor simultaneously. It began when we had the malcontents that had formed a mother goddess cult. I think that since they had nothing to contribute and every time they tried to prove their validity, the validity of a mother goddess, the very passages that they quoted proved the opposite. And so since they were always throwing this in our face and hashtagging my name to draw attention to their idiocy, I was always confronted with it. And as we must do, we must defend our credibility. So each time they wrote, and there were upwards of 20 now that they have made these attacks, I've never had to respond. And yet you just heard me said, but I had to respond. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, volume 4 of Coming Home is Yahweh's response. Each time they said something stupid, God says, well, share this. I wrote it for you. Okay, so I wrote it 2,000 or 3,000, 4,000 years ago, but nonetheless, I wrote it specifically for this occasion. You'll find that every detail fits exactly what happened, and it's the perfect answer. So it will be a overriding benefit because you're not only going to have a rebuttal that you don't have to write that comes direct. There were people making an attack, and he is now in doggy defense mode right there.
Yes, indeed, on watch.
You won't have to even bother with a rebuttal because I'll have provided it for you. I realize it's God saying that you trade on credibility. That's the business of being a witness. You have to be credible, and if I'm the one defending you, and you can recite prophecies that I have given to refute these claims thousands of years ago, that's about as credible gets. So that'll work just fine for you. And oh, by the way, when you translate these things, not only will you learn something about my view on who is and who isn't covenant and why I want certain people and don't want others, your whole covenant family is going to learn. It's going to be a wonderful educational experience for everybody, even the Wookiee tale. And then there's the other part of it, which is if somebody's going to attack and slander and try to demean what God calls the Nesh, the sign that he is raising, that's the nearly 40 volumes of YAHOWAH. If somebody's going to do that, then I'm going to stand up for it. And if they're going to try to besmirch the person that I have chosen to awaken my people at this time, then I'm going to reinforce my position with him. And that is largely what Coming Home 4 is. It's titled Bashar Herald, and it covers God's presentation of the person he chose to reveal his message to his people at this time. It's God's endorsement. That's what Coming Home 4 is. Now, Coming Home 5 was quite the experience. It's something that caught us completely off guard. We have long known that there is a reason that religious Jews reject Dowd as the returning Messiah. We know that Christians justify creating a mythical Messiah to replace the actual Messiah, because the actual Messiah did some things that, well, are a little less than perfect. And so we've done a lot covering and positioning Dowd correctly as the actual Messiah, Son of God, chosen one. And we were the first to determine that he's our Savior, having fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Mow'edym in 33 CE, as he himself foretold. But the thing that we had not done was deal with his rebellion. Because while things started off well, they did not continue well. Dowd, as it turns out, was created for a specific purpose. He was Adam in the garden. He was created to be God's beloved son, his firstborn. And he just didn't pass muster in the garden. He was too lethargic, wasn't a very good listener, and never engaged appropriately. And when people left the garden, it became even worse than that. And what God realized is that for his firstborn to be the son that he had envisioned, he would require parents. He was specifically designed to be a son. The solution was parents. And so God, over the past 6,000 years, has deployed two souls in particular to serve as Dowd's parents throughout his life. And today we had a discussion over, why was Dowd in the most known life, where he was the shepherd boy at 8 years old who was chosen by Yahweh and anointed as the Messiah, who grew up to become king of Israel. Why did he have such crappy birth parents? And he did. Yishai was a jerk. And he had no involvement in his son's life. And his mother, Dowd called a whore. And we don't even know her name. And the reason that God put him in that situation is because he wanted Dowd to be like Israel. He wanted him to trip all over himself and fall. He wanted him to have trouble with women and trouble being a father. And he did. He was a horrible father and a horrible husband. And he made a lot of very poor decisions overall, and finally went into rebellion against God, because God held him to a higher standard than he felt comfortable with. And that's what was really important. God needed to show him that way. And then to show what happens if you deploy parents. And God's favorite parents, far and away, are Noach and his wife, who we know better by the names of Boaz and Ruth. And they served as Dowd's parents. They restored the son's reputation and relationship with his father. It showed that it can be done. It told Israel it can be done. And it was the single most important thing that was ever done. So it's a long story to tell you that Coming Home 5 is based upon a word picture, the last word picture, the 31st mashal. You'll know it as a proverb. And in it, you have a surrogate mother speaking to the Son of God, the King, in a way that no one had ever spoken to him before. Said, it's important that you know who you are. It's important that you understand the kind of son you are. It's important that you knock off the booze. No more wine. You've had too much wine. It's time that you listen and you stop treating women as objects. It's time you had a mother. And she reads him the riot acts, but in a very loving way, saying, you've fallen on your face, son, and I'm here to pick you back up and dust you off and dress you back up. But we got a long way to go. And it was interesting that Dowd had two prophets and a general that were speaking to him, and he didn't listen to anybody. He was just a mess. But he did listen to his mother. But it wasn't enough. He then was confronted by a surrogate father, who is the Baal, the husband of the woman who is the Amma and the Asherah of the 31st word picture. And he is now known as Ethan Hozraki. And he delivers the hammer. And the hammer is second only to the Torah, the greatest piece of literature ever written. It's the 89th Psalm. It tells you exactly who Dowd is, what he will do, what he represents, how God views him, how God intends to use him, how he's going to return. And it resolved the issue. From that point on, in every deployment, every aspect of Dowd's life, what he wrote, what he did, was of a man who lived up to the billing of being the firstborn son of God. When we read that, though, you have to ask the who, the why questions. Who were these people? Who were they? Who is this Amma? Then Dowd even says, he tells Yahowah, thank you very much for delivering your Amma. She saved me. She literally says, she saved me. Who is this Ethan Hozraki? How does he relate to Obed-Edom? How does he relate to Boaz? How does he relate to Noach? How does he relate to Chinook? Who is that fellow? And so what it did is it caused a moment of great inquiry. We're saying, all right, we got to figure this out. This is the single most important moment in the 6,000-year story of God. His beloved son went completely AWOL, off the tracks, off the plantation, man. He was gone. And yet he was brought back. And it was husband and wife, mother and father who did this. Who were they? Well, God's pretty good with the connections. He laid on so many connections, our head was spinning. Go ask Ruth. Ruth announces she's the Amma. Ruth announces to Boaz, we're going to deliver the kinsman redeemer. He's the kinsman redeemer. We delivered him back to his father. And we would deliver him as his great-grandparents. And then we'd come back and deliver him as his surrogate parents. And then we'd deliver him again to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Mow'edym. And then you look at Leah, and that's my wife's name. And Leah says, I'm the Asherah. And it was Leah who said, I'm the Asherah. And so we began to say, so who are you and who am I? And that became volume 5. What is this word picture? Who are these people? This led to volume 6, which we wrote simultaneously, which we said, now that we know and we figured it out, it's time we start right at the beginning. God's first prophecy. 2 luminaries, Qatan and Gabor. 2. And he says those are the 2 guys that are going to fulfill the Mow'edym, which are the 7 meetings each year where you go from man's world to God's world. Dowd fulfilled the first 3. I'm responsible for the next 2, and we fulfill the last 2 together. And so we began there, and then that leads directly to the next iteration of these two fellows, because the 2 luminaries are men. They're not the sun and the moon. They're men. Mm-hmm. The sun and the moon don't fulfill the Mow'edym. Men do. And you go from there to them being represented a second time in the second chapter now of the first book of the Torah, Bereshith, Genesis. And they're the 2 trees in the garden. They're the tree of lives because Dowd opened the door to life by fulfilling Pesach. And they are the tree of knowledge because the Choter is the Esau Diath. He's the tree of knowledge. And so God has depicted those two trees, and that's what we're going to be talking about here, those two trees. And they're presented in Zakar'yah 4. And then we just went all the way through. Who are these people? Because what we're able to deduce is that the only way that God was able to tell his story his way and get it to play out on his timeline in the way that he intended was to train and deploy souls that he trusted. And that's a big deal because God said very early on, I regret having created humans. He doesn't like people very much. He doesn't trust them at all. And so to find two souls that he says, I can trust them to raise my son, who's the third, and then there's two others. It's Moshe and Eliah, the other two. He found 5 souls. He says, I trust these souls. I'll redeploy these souls. They'll get it done. They're my finishers. They're my fixers. And God has used them in the most difficult situations for the same purpose, which is to cause Adam, who became Dowd and then Shem, to serve as the intended firstborn of God so that God could have him at his right side. He could inherit the universe and they could go off and explore and manage it together. And then to develop a covenant family for his son so that his son had covenant family members, brothers and sisters. And then to give humankind an opportunity to come back to the garden under the guidance and leadership of that covenant family. That's God's story. And he's deployed and redeployed the same souls to get that done. And that whole story is told in Coming Home, Volume 6. So we are really covering some cutting-edge material here. And the evidence for it is overwhelming. You know, one of the things that is so gratifying is that when you go into material like this, the first thing that you expect is that even if you can prove it based upon God's testimony, you don't expect people that you hardly know that are, reading your books, but and communicating with one another to agree, because it's really beyond anything anyone has ever conceived before. And yet, when I listen to those family presentations, it's done the same thing with everybody. It resonates and it says, yeah, it's the way it needs to be. Of course, God not going to let this all to chance. He's not playing dice here. And this is the natural way to get it done. And it's a beautiful story when you understand who the players are and how they have worked through time. Of course, it makes sense. So that's been pretty gratifying. So before we go into it, I'll just throw it out to everybody, give a chance to throw in your 2 cents and agree, disagree, add to it. We'll start with Miss Leah. You were the one who was so hot to trot with the 31st Mashal, which led to most of this.
My discovery.
What do you think?
Well, my discovery of the 31st, I remember reading it and going, oh my. And what ensued after was nothing short of, I guess you'd call those like midlife crises. Like, who are you? Who are you? Sort of thing. And who am I?
Mm-hmm.
It was difficult to deal with.
Mm-hmm. It's still difficult to deal with.
It is. It's a.
Yeah. For you, it's
Heavy
difficult. For you, it's difficult because you're an introvert and we're reasonably private. Other than the Mother Goddess cult wanted to tear you to ribbons, for the most part, you were very private and worked quietly as my wife. And all of a sudden, now you're not just a named person in the story. You're one of the 5 most important people in the story. Yeah. And all of a sudden, that is, I will tell you, for anybody who is listening to us and thinks that you're doing yourself a favor somehow to write yourself into God's story, I'm going to tell you, no, you're not.
No.
No, it's the
No.
I didn't have any gray
Marty
hair
running
before
back.
before we started this. I'll tell you that.
I was actually depressed for about 2 weeks.
Oh, it's
yeah.
the pressure of it, the
weight.
responsibility of it.
Heavy, yeah.
You know, and there is no, there's nothing that goes along with it other than the satisfaction of giving it your best and knowing at the end that if you gave it your best, you pleased our God and His Son. But it really puts you out there, and the more you know, the more vulnerable you become. And so for Leah, that was it's still something she's struggling with. Doesn't like it.
I don't like fame.
But as I keep on saying,
And
suck
I
it up,
think
Buttercup.
Yahowah took the Band-Aid off late in the games because I don't like to be known.
You've
No, it's true.
got to deal with it. Yeah,
yes,
no, you
the
just have
one
to deal
thing-
with it.
The one thing I did recall and still recall and I'm very fond of is being able to see myself through someone else's eyes.
Yes,
Who
because
is very articulate and verbose.
yes, because it is now apparent that I wrote the Proverbs and I wrote I wrote the story of Ruth. That was part of the responsibility. So you do get to see yourself through somebody else's eyes, and that's kind of a lovely thing.
And also seeing Dowd through Ms. Moore 89. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But what really struck me later on, when I had some time to be alone with my thoughts, was that it's a love story within a love story.
It is.
And
It's
quite
a husband and
comforting.
wife love story, and their love for their son is the second love story, and all of their love for Yahowah is. So it's three coexisting love stories, and you can add a fourth because we're all in it to prevail with Yisrael, who is essentially unlovable, and yet we have to break through and manage to find a way to love them. And so there are 4 love stories here, all intertwined.
Yes.
All right, Kevin, what do you think?
I think it's interesting on how we're getting these discoveries. A couple things. The first one was, you just get to a point to where you're settled in with being a Nakar, the Choter, and then the Adam of Parah, and then it just keeps. And you're like, okay, we're done now. Enough with the titles.
Yeah,
and
right. Yeah, done. Good. Yeah, we had a quotient on titles. No more titles.
Yeah.
let's stop. And then it's just
stop.
recently, in the last 2 weeks, it was just in Yahowah
Tsunami.
going through it again. It was the tsunami of pseudonyms.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
yeah.
over and over and
Yeah,
over.
a symphony of Shems, as it turns out.
Yeah, symphony.
Yeah, literally a symphony of Shems. And you're going, oh my goodness. And it's so blatant and it's so overwhelming, and there is no other option. And so you're reading this and saying, but there's nobody else in human history that meets these criterion. And you hear God just waxing poetic, and it's just over the top, and particularly Yahowah. I mean, he's clearly got a bromance with this whole thing.
And that's to my point, is even with, Leah early on having this it's not an issue, but this angst about,
it is an issue,
being in the
but
Amma, right? It's,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But it
I
is
do.
the
Every day.
stories, all stories that we no superhero, nobody, no protagonist in any story ever comes up with the magic wand and boop, 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 boop. The story's easy. There is growth in all of it. Everyone always grows into the task that's come up. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
They go about the business of the business.
Yeah.
And they never quit. And they never quit.
They don't know how.
Before we go down the line over there, I'm going to ask Perry, you have actually been here by choice and been in the midst of all of this, as we have opened a chest of insights, a teba of additional insights. What do you think there, Perry?
I spent my whole life trying to see the big picture. I like puzzles, and
Yes, you do.
all those pieces need to fit together into a big picture.
Yep.
With the insights that have been coming of late, it is finally fitting into a big picture, and it all makes sense. Every bit of it.
Yeah, I see it as the full explanation of Esau. There are 7 spirits given to the Choter, and they begin with the spirit of Yahowah, which is pretty hard to beat that. And they go from that to Bien, which is something that Jeff, you mentioned not long ago. It is wisdom, and as it goes through these, Chokmah is actually the second, and then Bien wisdom, or Bien understanding, Chokmah wisdom. The next, which is the 4th, spirit of Yahowah, is Esau. Esau is tree with a man standing up at the end of it. Etz is tree. Esau has got a man standing up at the end of the tree. It says the tree is a man. And it conveys exactly what Perry said. It's the whole picture. So the complete portrait that God's painting from beginning to end, from the garden back to the garden, the entire story of who the players are and what they do, when they do it, how they do it, and what God's involvement is and what he's trying to achieve through them. The entire picture that God has painted for the first time is now visible from beginning to end. And that is specifically what Esau conveys. Of course, then he has the spirit of Gabora, which is the courage to actually do this. And then the 6th spirit is the spirit of Dayat. And Dayat is the name of the tree of knowledge. It is the Etz Dayat. And so you realize that Choter is that guy who is not only the tree of knowledge, but he's the one whose responsibility it is to be the first to actually put together the whole picture from beginning to end, from the creation account and the 2 luminaries, all the way to the very last days of prophecy and what follows over the 1,000 years in the garden.
What if I have a different perspective? I think that if you really pull back the lens just a little bit more from there, it's actually a family portrait.
Sure. It's a family portrait of a father that began with a son.
Yes.
But he was too far removed from his son to raise him. And there was no mother in the garden. And so it didn't work. And so Yahowah found a soul that he thought could serve in that purpose. And he was married to a woman that he thought could serve in that purpose. And we just got redeployed for that purpose. And the purpose is to cause God's firstborn, Adam, who became Shem and then Dowd, to measure up to the standard that God was seeking. And we achieved that. And he has achieved that. And
it took a few lifetimes, but we got there.
Yeah, well, no part of it was easy. No part of it was
I
easy.
don't think so.
So what do you think, Rich?
I love this plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yahowah literally paints himself into a corner with free will.
He does.
And
He
so
does. Yeah.
I've got no problem with him taking his tried and tested souls
Mm-hmm.
to help raise his son, because his son has to earn his way to be the tree of lives. It just wasn't handed to him.
Yeah.
And somebody had to keep him on the straight and narrow.
Yep. Somebody had to teach him how to be a son.
Yeah.
It's God views free will as sacrosanct. It has to apply. It doesn't change the fact that he can still influence the situation. And one of the things that I found so interesting is that these 8 times that Leah and I will be deployed, God doesn't ask if we're okay doing this. And the reason is that we gave our approval to him in person in Mowedym.
Mm-hmm.
Say, okay. When God got so sick of humans that he wanted to obliterate all humankind, we were sitting right there with him and said, no, maybe there's another way to go about this. What if we do this? And, we volunteered. After the travesty of the woman that was raped to death and hacked into pieces and the Civil War and all the horrible things that happened in Israel, we said, okay, it's probably time to go back down. Let's let's be the model for this whole thing. We'll be Boaz and Ruth. We'll lay it all out. We'll be the model for what needs to be done, and we'll be the grandparents, the great grandparents of Dowd. And so I just think it happened by sitting beside him and him saying, he's pretty conversant on this kind of thing. When it's somebody that he likes being with, he'll say, what do you think? What's your opinion? What do you think we ought to do now? Yeah, you're one of these humans. How do we solve this human thing? And you can tell that God doesn't like being involved personally in this human thing. When the Israelites told him, we want you to go away. We don't want to ever see you again or hear from you again. What's the first thing God said?
Perfect.
Perfect. I'm good with
Okay.
that. I'm really good with that.
I couldn't finish the question. He said yes.
Yeah, he was already yes, and I've got my players already lined up, and so the very job that God didn't want to do, and obviously he wasn't very good at it. I mean, it wasn't good at it, but I think is because humans were so repulsive. He just says, why do I need this aggravation? I really don't need it. If you can deliver a few of them all cleaned up, ready to go, I think this might work. Mm-hmm. And so that's how the plan got repeated.
It's the same idea of handing a messy little baby over to a nanny. Same idea.
Yeah. Exactly. What do you think, Dr. Jeff?
What strikes me as so significant is that without the deployment of Boaz and Ruth, Dowd does not fulfill Pesach, Matzah, or Bikurim.
That's correct.
It is so significant that none of us would be here. The world would be over. The universe as we know would not exist. And then this revelation is this last week, where you're described in Yashia 33 as being Tzedak, Yasha, Gadowl, Zakar'yah. I was totally blown away with the statement in 33, Mizmor 33:12, Asher Hagoy, Asher Elohim Yahuwah.
Yes.
Reaffirmed what Shlomo said in the famous speech from Temple Mount, confirmed it all, and is sticking it right into the rabbis' faces.
Yep. He said, I'm going to send a goy because Yahweh is his God.
Yahweh is God. And then as a Yehud, I was thinking, I'm still trying to wash myself off from Jacob and his missteps.
You're such a worm.
Worminess.
But what brings it home, what really brings it home is when you see, where Boaz, Obed Edom, Edom, and then Moab, and then the Ivrit. We need to cross over. So Yehudim have to get over it.
Yeah, they do. They've got to get over it.
The first thing they'll have to get over themselves.
Yeah, one of the real places where they have to get over themselves is the story of Esau and Jacob and Rebekah and Ishak. That is a horrible story. And that is absolutely repulsive. Jacob was conniving and deliberately conniving and duplicitous. Rebekah was a scum, which she did. Absolute scum. Completely and totally inappropriate. And Ishak was really no better than either of the two of them. And they lied. They pulled off a fraud. They lied some more. And Esau didn't do a damn thing to deserve any of this. And his only inappropriate thing is that he was a man's man. His father loved him. And he used to go off and hunt and bring back fresh meat for his father. And Father just loved it. They had a wonderful relationship. And, he came back, he was hungry one day, and, and he was sideswiped by his conniving brother. But he, they were where they were living. There were foreigners everywhere, and they weren't even Israel yet. They were Babylonians. And he married a couple of Hittite women, and that was the dominant civilization close to them. And he, those women aggravated Rebecca somehow. We're not told how. That was his only slip up. Otherwise, he was absolutely, unequivocally the better of those two boys, and he was the one who deserved the birthright. It was stolen from him. And Yishak was an a-hole in the way that he handled it. And so this idea that Yahweh hated Esau, that doesn't come in that story. There's no indication of that at all in that story. That story is told in Genesis. That story is thousands of years away from when you actually hear Yahweh's assessment, and Yahweh's assessment isn't of the individual. When you open the opening chapter of Malachi, which was written 447 BCE, what you read is God giving an assessment. He is telling Israel, there was once upon a time I loved you. And then you hear Israel respond, well, yeah, how did you love us? Look at all the hell we've gone through. How did you love us? And he says, I loved Jacob, and I didn't. I had resentment issues with Esau. And you say, so does that have anything to do with the Jacob that was such a worm? No. That have anything to do with the Esau that had birthright stolen? No. What it had to do with is what came as a result of both of them. Israel and the affirmation of the covenant. And those who would oppose Israel. And that's what he's talking about there. And he then says to the Israelites, and through Malachi, the last of the prophets, that was then. This is now. You call me a Lord, and yet you show me no respect. If I am to be a father, why am I not loved? He's telling them, you are the ones I should have hated for your behavior. I'm not going to tell you is there anything I've got against Esau now. And I think that's the reason why God rubs it in. When the Aaron Bereth couldn't be successfully moved to Jerusalem, and a nice Jewish boy decided that he was going to intervene, and God had to kill him, and then Dowd had a conniption fit, didn't understand the metaphor. And from that point on, Dowd was never worth a damn, at least until the intervention of his mother and father. He just went further and further down. And so you've got the guy that actually resolves the issue. His name is Obed-Edom, which is a descendant of Esau. And he's the one that successfully relocates the Ark of the Covenant. And what God makes it clear is this Obed-Edom, which is the one who does the work from Edom, and the one who serves Adam, the one who serves man. God makes it really clear that he really, really loves this man and his family. He says, I wanted to emphasize this so that everyone would get the picture. This man from Edom, God loved. And that's why the Ark of the Covenant stayed not someplace protected, in his home. It wasn't in a tent someplace. It was in his home. And God said, I loved it there. And then you find that in Isaiah 53, which is where this Coming Home Volume 4 will lead to 63, you'll find that the man who saves many, the ultimate savior of the remnant of Israel, is a fellow called the man from Edom, a man who comes from Edom. So I think God's painting a picture here that's pretty clear, that he's going to restore this fractured family by restoring the birthright of Esau. And it's going to take some humble pie by Jacob.
Yes.
That is why it's being served up that way. That's why when the Jewish boy, which God then renamed as a girl, interfered with his plans, and he decided he was going to hang out with Obed-Edom there for a while. And then God says through his great prophet Isaiah that it's through Obed-Edom and the man from Edom that I'm going to save many. All who are saved in the end are saved through him. Boy, that's God saying, we're coming full circle. I'm going to restore my family by telling my people, why did you call me Lord and give me no respect? Why did you not love me as a father? That is how we're going to resolve this whole thing. So I just think that is a beautiful aspect of this picture.
It's amazing. And it's just it just warms me all over to just know that you're going to play the role and you're going to get into this, I know, is Shaphat with the Shabbat at your disposal, the heavenly host.
Yeah,
to do it as necessary.
The Choter is twice called a Shaphat. He is the judge of judges in the last days. He is the person through whom God is going to judge the world. And he, in the prelude to that, tells us that the Choter is the one that he is going to put the heavenly host under his command to cleanse the world of the religious and political influences as he turns that man into a flaming sword. So this is God saying, I'm good with this. This is working out exactly the way I wanted it to work out. I'm happy to come back when it's all resolved, when it's all cleaned up. You're going to be my boy when my boy is ready to go, and people to be part of my boy's family when they're all ready to go. And you just keep it up, kid. This is good work.
And I always wanted a pet dragon. So
okay, there you go. Well, you're going to have your pet dragon as your husband. He breathes fire. Yeah. It is for cool. True.
A fire-breathing bull.
May not be able to hit a golf ball very straight or very far, but I'm going to breathe fire, Kirk. So what's your conclusions there, Kirk?
As I was sitting here, when I listen, I take notes. Obviously, when I look, I like to draw, but when I listen, I take notes. And I wrote a couple of things down about what we started out with. Go where the words lead.
Yeah, we did.
We agreed that if they totally make sense and it's logical, that we would go there and continue to say that, repeat that and write that if it's supported by facts. And in 20 years, I've done that and been rejected by just about everybody.
Except YAHOWAH and the Covenant Family.
I haven't suffered terribly, but I must say, there's a little bit of a touche moment coming, which I will enjoy. But the way I figured one more year we'll do this, and then we'll do the big show, and hopefully I get the big show some way there.
Yeah. But, one more year the way we're going, and then we do the big show.
So the answer to your question is every time all these things, even though they're coming out to rapid fire and just on and on and on and exponentially increasing, I go, it doesn't seem to bother me. I thought it would. It only bothered me in the context before is that I was sharing so much with people that were just dead in the head and wouldn't want to listen anyway, that I couldn't figure out how here are the facts. Here's what it says. This is on and on and on, and you just feel like you're hitting the wall to the point that you want to quit talking to anybody. So I understand what y'all.
That's it. It's not our responsibility to talk anybody into anything.
I know.
It's just our responsibility to hold people accountable and then to tell the truths to those who are willing to listen.
Yeah, well,
have the opportunity. One of the things before we get to you, Will, the thing that strikes me that's the most important is something that Perry kept on bringing up today, which is we're going to begin this program or transition in this program into Zakar'yah 4, which is the 2 trees. But the most powerful chapter of Zakar'yah is actually the 12th chapter. And in the 12th chapter of Zakar'yah, you also find this blazing torch and this flaming sword that God is going to empower on these days. And what you read there leads into the story of the 62nd and 63rd chapters of Isaiah, which culminates in the man from Edom saving many. And what it says is that there are compatriots of this learned bull that are also lovers of Yahudah that are side by side. It's a team and everybody's engaged. And he says in the midst of that there are watchmen on the wall, plural. And they're all very observant, those that are on the wall. And then he doubles down on this group of individuals who are supportive of and working with this learned and outspoken bull, that their task is to keep it going, to never relent. Day and night, 7 days a week, 1,250 days, never let up. Go.
24/7 live stream.
24/7, every day, go. This is what this is the final 3.5 years. It's the last push. Don't relent. You got a lot of time to vacation afterwards. Don't relent. And it's clearly a team. And so when we made the move to go from me writing, me talking, everybody else listening to, we now have a family page, and everybody is coming out and is now contributing their voices and doing shows and talking, and those programs are magnificent. They are really heartwarming. They're intelligent. They're contributory, and what we learned is that God's not interested in somebody who's just a listener. Listening is exceedingly important. Learning is exceedingly important.
Responding is even more important.
Responding is essential.
Yes.
And contributing. So that is something we learned in it. So that means that this voyage down this path, which has added so many more responsibilities, didn't just include me. Welcome to the family.
We're going to drag you along.
So now, Will, it's your turn there, pal.
Yeah. It's interesting. When we were introduced to this concept of reinsertion, I was, I don't want to say I was reluctant that initially, but I had to wrap my head around it. And then it just struck me as something, it has to be this way. And it really is profound. I mean, you think about it. On one side of the ledger, you have man. There's billions of them. He has resources and he has free will. Over here on this side of the ledger, you have Yahweh with a small family. And he is able to overcome all the machinations and malfeasance of religious and political people by the billions with a small family who will respond to him, who will observe his testimony. It is remarkable the power packed in just a handful of responders and a remnant.
And their family.
You know what I mean?
And there's a couple of things that are really important about that. One of them is that God gets what he wants. When God says, I regret creating humans, he does not like humans. We're awful. I mean, humanity is really terrible.
Yeah,
And
Yahowah
they're
and I
just
share that.
flat out evil. And so what God wants is a family, and families are small. And so instead of millions and billions, he wants a family. You know, it's going to be hundreds of covenant members, and then ultimately a few thousand in the remnant. It's a tiny fraction of humanity. It's far less than 1 in a million. Tiny fraction. And that's exactly as he wants it, because he knows when we become many, we become bad. And so it's a family.
And think about what it says about Yahowah in this 6,000-year commitment to you, Leah, Dowd. I mean, let's be honest, all the bullshit nonsense he's had to put up with over and over, but he hangs in there. And I don't know where else you can look in the Torah and sort of scrape that about Yahweh's personality. But when you understand reinsertion and how incredibly committed he is to this family, I mean, he's going to go to the mat for the family. I think that that concept of reinsertion points to that so strongly as just another thing about Yahweh's character and who he is.
And the thing about reinsertion, too, is it is so elegant and so simple. Really, it's just incredibly simple.
Right.
And the thing that you have to get beyond to understand how simple
Can we just call it reconstitution, please?
Yeah, is that because reconstitution is really not what it is. Because the moment you focus on the physical body, you've lost it. And so Christianity with its bodily resurrection, Islam with its bodily resurrection, Judaism with its body resurrection, there's not a single religious person that's able to understand this, because they think it's their body that is going to be resurrected and live in the heavens. And they have no concept of dimensionality, and that it's our bodies that are the liability, and our bodies have the overall worth of about 3 shekels.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not 3 shekels worth of minerals or worth in our bodies. They're just useless, and they're limiting, and they keep us on this planet so that we can't even go explore the universe, and we can't be eternal. We can't be empowered. We can't be enriched in these bodies. So the body is the thing that you've got to get beyond. And you see that body is something God can create a human body using DNA, or insert a soul into the womb of a woman, which he did with Sarah, and even talked about it. He says, "This is my greatest miracle. Me choosing how I'm going to insert a soul, where and when of my choosing. That is my greatest miracle."
Yeah.
And he's on record saying that's what he does. And for him to take a soul, which is an entity that exists in dimensions beyond the 3 we perceive. That's why science can never quantify a soul. They can't measure it. They have no definition for it. They know that
no instrumentation will calibrate it.
That animal consciousness, of which man is an animal, consciousness gives us the ability to observe and respond to our environment, which plants do not have. And they know that the moment the soul is gone, that consciousness is gone, life is gone. But they have no idea what it is, because it's like dark energy and dark matter. It exists in dimensions beyond the 3 that we perceive.
They have zero instrumentation to calibrate it.
So the ability of God taking something that he conceived, which is a soul, which is in dimensions beyond the 3 that we know, probably 1 less than where God is in the 7th dimension, and for him to take a soul like that and just redeploy it. He can redeploy it in a full-grown adult. He can redeploy it in an avatar. He can redeploy it and enveloped in spirit. He can redeploy it as a baby. He can redeploy it any way he wishes to do it. And it's easy for him to do.
Yeah.
The only thing that would be hard for him to do, and I think it's actually impossible, is I don't think he can send a soul back in time. Right. The whole thing has to play out along the timeline. There are no redos. If we screwed up at any step along the way, there is no redo. You can't reboot. So you have to rely on the fact that the souls that you deploy are going to get her done, because they cannot go back in time and say, I screwed that up. Can I have another shot at that one? So it's actually exceedingly easy for God to do it. It makes total sense for him to do it. And for him not to do it, he would have to be a lot less than he is. And what you end up with is then the biggie. I think it's the biggest of all. It's not just bringing these two souls back to support his fallen son when his son really lost it, and to restore that relationship, which I think was the single most important moment, because as you said, Dr. Jeff, if we don't get that done, then Dowd does not fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Mowedym. And the Mowedym go unfulfilled, prophecies begin to unravel. And at that point, there can be no Shabuah or Teruah harvest. There can be no Kippurim return. There is no entry into the garden on Sukkah. The whole thing's gone. Yahweh was never known again by name. The covenant conditions are never considered again. There's no purpose to the Moed Mikre. They're never fulfilled. They accomplish nothing. And so it's all over if we don't prevail and getting Dowd turned around, which is why that you read the beauty of the last word picture, the 31st Mashal, and the 89th Mizmor, the 89th Psalm, which is the greatest piece of literature other than the Torah. And it's why we have focused on those things. But it also means something that I know is really, really tough for people to wrap their minds around. But ultimately, when you recognize what God has chosen to do, you have to think like God. And then you realize, okay, so we salvaged his relationship with his son. He wrote all the Mizmor. He was ready to go. He had prophetically seen what was going to happen to him on Passover with crucifixion. He had prophetically written about what was going to happen when he went into Sheol, hell, carrying our guilt. He knew how Bikurim was going to play out. He was ready. But then he had to be brought back into this world 1,000 years later. And he doesn't do well on his own. He's not equipped to do well on his own. It's not his purpose to do well on his own. He has to be parented. And so that means that Yahweh had to bring Ruth and Boaz back. And they served as his parents. And they raised him in Bethlehem, just outside of his city, under Roman occupation. And it means that the story that Paul counterfeited to create the Christian New Testament, that much of it actually happened, but not under the names that Paul wrote. But there really was a child whose name was Emmanuel, who was born in Bethlehem in 1 BCE. And he did have real parents, although there was no immaculate conception.
Ew.
We had sex.
We had sex, just like Ruth and Boaz.
That's right, kids.
Yeah.
The old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned way. It's the best. And
It's even fun.
But okay, so that's fun. But then it gets to be really serious, because you've got to raise a son such that he's prepared to be crucified and go into hell.
By Romans.
And then you had to convince the Romans that this man was such a threat, your son was such a threat, that the Romans needed to crucify him. And now, Dowd was really that threat, because he really was king of Israel. He really was the Messiah. He really was and is the chosen one of God. He is the very Son of God. He had all the credentials that would cause Rome to go nuts. And so
By Roman law, if you proclaim yourself a king in a vassal state, it's instant death.
And he was all those things. Jesus was, of course, didn't even exist. So he was none of those things. Dowd was all of those things. And so he had to convince Rome to crucify her son. But you come to know God, and the way that he came up with this plan, he is never going to leave his son alone. Never again. Which means we didn't leave him on Passover.
Yeah.
We didn't leave him when it was time to fulfill matzah and go into Sheol.
One last thing I was going to say, Yada, is just, I touched on it a little bit, but how powerful and effective the father, mother, or the family model, mother, father, daughter, son, what have you, and how it, that plan sits so central to Yahweh's plan, and just how effective that unit can be. It's actually, Yada, changed my paradigm with Jake and the impact that I can have on him as a father, because, well, it's not a perfect comparison with you and Dowd, but the point is you had a tremendous impact on him, and were able to take him from going this way and just a course correction. Well, in a much, much smaller way, I can do that with Jake. I can say, hey, Jake, listen, buddy, this isn't working out for you. We got to do this differently. And but that model is meant to be effective and work, and it does. And it worked on the biggest stage imaginable.
Yes. Exactly, and still give him the freedom to fail.
Yep.
Give him the encouragement to try. Yep. Give him support. Give him love, but provide him with guidance so that.
And kick him in the shins when he does bad stuff.
Yeah, so it's you got to be very real as parents. It's a very real thing, and a lot of it is by example. So when we're telling Dowd, this is who you are, and this is what you're going to do in your next life. And, oh, by the way, you know, we witnessed it on that walk to Moriah with Abraham and Yishak. You know, I told you that was all about you. You were going to be that Passover lamb. That's what that story was all about. When God says, no, I'll provide the lamb, that's what he was talking about. It's you.
You're right,
we've had this talk before. But, you know, son, we're not going to let you do this alone. We'll be there with you every step of the way. I'll be crucified right beside you. I'll go into hell with you. And then to restore your reputation, because you know it's going to be ripped from you by the religious, your people are going to create 3 religions that are going to destroy your reputation. I'll come back and I'll restore what they took from you. And then ultimately, I'll get you the family that you are looking for, and I'll go through it again. I'll be sacrificed another time for you. So it's the living example of love. It's not just the words.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that resonated with him. You know, if you'll do that for me, it's least I can do is do my part. And he did. And he earned his position of respect. But knowing what we know, even though he has now earned his full ticket to be Elyon, the essence of God in our presence, there's no reason for God to change. All right? His son works best, performs best, is happiest, most fulfilled in his relationship with Yahweh when he has parenting. You know, I think we'll be Mr. and Mrs. Mama and Daddy Dowd for a long time. I think that's it.
I find it curious that your new insights and everything you've come up with the last 12 months isn't for the general public.
No, it isn't.
It's for the children in that car.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's for us to know.
You know, it's funny that you say that, Rich, because I was thinking about this week, you know, going over Psalm 119, Dowd says, you know, my travels have been for the family. And I remember when we first got into all this, I pictured this big outreach, right? And I just pictured people coming left and right, and we're you know, acclimating people and introducing them. And yet none of this was outreach. Now, at some point, all this stuff's going to be part of the banner, and it's going to be used to teach the remnant. But for right now, this is about the family. All this teaching that's being put, it's your travels, Yada, are for the family right now.
They are.
You're about the family right now. And the family's about the family, you know, responding.
And the family is far more substantial than what we had previously perceived. That is the one thing that the family page and these independent blogs are demonstrating, is the family has greater breadth and depth than anything we previously perceived.
Yeah.
And, you know, the time we spent, you know, trying to get people in wasn't lost time. We learned what we needed to learn by doing that. which makes us better family members.
Correct.
Also gave us thicker skin because what we're in for,
Yes.
Yehuda can be some nasty people.
Yeah, and if you were to begin with somebody and said, Kirk, we began a long time ago, and Jeff. Oh, by the way, to make this go, I was going to expect that you engage and you make a major contribution to the family, and oh, by the way, he couldn't relate to his people, couldn't wait to abandon them because they were so obnoxious, and that's your target audience. Good luck with it. No one has ever been successful with them. So step right up. That's your target audience. How would you have said, oh yeah, that sounds like really a lot of fun. Sign me up for that. And you're the guy in this story, and you get not only crucified, but later you get bludgeoned to death. That sounds good. Write me into that story.
Yeah, I tell you, Craig. Sacrifice twice, the Adam of Korah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've got to tell you that in this last week and two, as the voice of Yah, you have been on fire, and you've manifested characteristics of Dowd in terms of his courage, audacity, and boldness. Elia in terms of his sarcasm and his just wit. Moshe in terms of his leadership, and sprinkle that with an element of Yashiyah, with that intelligence and chokhmah, and you sprinkle that with the vlogs and the Herald presentations this week, the righteous indignation, where it was well justified and due. This is the culmination of 25 years, and you and Amar have given birth to this.
Yeah. None of it came easy. None of it came fast. But once God said, I really don't care if you want to be anonymous or not. I don't really care if you have a moratorium on titles. That's too bad. This is where we're going with this. And you realize that he is positioning you in this role to act a certain way. And that the thing that you need to do is to view everything from his perspective and respond accordingly. How would he respond if he's hearing one of those vomiting women besmirch his people, or that has the fakest Indian flag and saying this is what it represents? How would he respond to that? His language is quite colorful, and he has a very short fuse and has a very low tolerance for stupid.
The only time Yahweh interacted with people was to have the earth swallow them up.
Yeah, fire. The difference is that at the moment I'm allowed to use my words, but emotions and intellect, but words. And there will be a time when we will also spew the same end result that God views is the appropriate response, is just to incinerate the trash. But, God's in a different position, and soon we will be too. But the different position he is in is that he conceived this planet and this universe and life. And therefore, if he chooses to shorten a life, he hasn't taken anything. You still had what you wouldn't have had he not given it to you. So he can shorten every life without taking anything from anybody. And in our present state, all we can do is to say, your life right now has a maximum of 7 years as an extension on it. And if you don't listen, 7 years is the absolute maximum that you have, and it will be ended. And I'm going to give you the way to resolve that if you want to listen. But it's at this point, you really got to get your act together if you're going to listen. And I'm not going to beg you to do it because, quite frankly, God doesn't want a whole lot of people to accept. He only wants the best. So I think that's the deal. And you finally get to the end, and God says, we have to resolve this. It's the time for words is now over. You used your words. You wielded them wisely. It's over with the words. We're going to play with fire now. Yes, Kirk.
I just want to add one thing. About the insights. I'm taking a little turn back a minute, but I had so much fun in Florida with y'all, and later in particular, we would talk art and all that kind of thing. While you were out there typing away and having a wonderful time too. But we were friends.
I do like that.
I always treated. I thought she, I know she is, and I'm her friend, and she knows that. But so the way she was treated through this little episode that happened within the last couple of years made me so sick. And this is like I'm so thrilled that this more and more story came out, and every time it came back, I said, "Stick it to him."
Yeah. Absolutely. It is a marvelous thing in terms of the group that you actually met, because we were only together one time in person. We were with you 3 times together in person, but with the group of malcontents that are gone, which you joined us on that time in our home in South Florida, which Leah had invited. That wasn't my idea; it was Leah's idea, because my preference is that the further everybody is away, the better it is, because with as much as what we're saying is so different than what people are accustomed to hearing, you don't want to have the impression that you have a group of followers. And so kind of the best thing to do is to say, I'll do my thing. If you got a question, we'll talk by email, but I almost never talk on the phone, almost never. And we've only had very, very few personal encounters. And it designed exactly that way. And but Leah decided she was going to have that group, and that group became vicious. They began like Miriam did. We're going to demean the wife first, and they were despicable, and they still are despicable. And of course, they demeaned you, Dr. Jeff, and they demeaned, Wookie, you're back on my ears. You're back on my ears, buddy. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Well, it's a long cable for the ears. Poor Wookie. I don't think that's going to work for you, pal. There's not enough iced tea left in there. And to see people that you let into your life and you became vulnerable to, and you tried to teach and help turn that vicious against Leah and say as many awful things as they did. And then to read what God had to say about them and about Leah. That was just perfect, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to take care of my own. I will defend my own. I've got you. Not to worry. You were the Yama.
It was. I concur with Kirk. I was present at that gathering.
Yes, you were.
And as far as Leah goes, I'm going to give my own dad a shout out. He was prescient because he met Leah, and after his initial meeting with Leah, he basically said, "Listen to Leah," and he's been saying it ever since.
Yes.
And he was.
Your dad's a good judge of character. Yeah.
He was right about her.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, you drove me up to see Harold and his mom. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah,
Yes.
Harold and I get along great.
Yeah. Oh, Harold's marvelous, and so it's been a family affair.
Yeah.
Ever since. But yeah, that is the whole point of it. All right, so that we do what I want to make certain that I comply with Kevin's wishes. Without Kevin, the whole thing falls apart. So
gotta
pay attention. Yeah, I got to pay attention to the co-host of the vlog on the vlog, and also the guy that puts together the family vlog, and probably the person my wife talks to almost as much as she does to me, Rich, and Perry. Well, yeah, one of the most challenging prophecies for a long time to interpret has been Zakar'yah 4. Which is why I think Kevin wanted us to go there. And based upon the prophet's assessment, it is apparent that Zakar'yah did not understand it at the time either. And, I didn't really understand it until quite recently. Because the natural inclination, and if you were even to do a search on this, it would tell you that these two trees are the two witnesses and that Elia is one of them. And that's what I wrote initially, because that's what I thought it was talking about too. But live and learn. God's got two trees, and those two trees are essential to God's story. So they are the reason that the Malak that was giving this presentation to Zakar'yah kept on saying, how is it that you don't know who these two trees are? Because it's not complicated. They really are two trees. And so after you understand how the picture fits together, you say, oh, yeah, come on, Zakar'yah. They are really two trees. These two trees are the two most important men in God's story. Anyway, it's based on the prophet's assessment. He didn't get it at the time either. And by design, sometimes God conveys messages that are well beyond the capacity of the original audience to process, even though he gave you all the information necessary to do so. After all, the two trees are standing on either side of a menorah, and the opening prophecy is, I got two fellas, and they're on. They are the Ma'oreth. They're the two luminaries, and these guys are standing on either side of the menorah. And then he goes into the next story, and there's two trees, and now you got the two trees standing on other side of the luminary. It really ought not have been all that difficult to figure out, right? God said, I started with this. You ought to come on. You ought to get it by now. So, it's just sometimes I think that most people get so wrapped up in religion and they want things to say things that fit their religion, so they just can't process it intelligently, and they just never just say, I want to go where the words lead, and I want to understand who God is, what he's asking, what he's offering in return, and how are those promises and requests delivered. So ultimately, we gain the capacity to understand things that the original audience could not process. And the message is revealed to those who will be affected by them. So perhaps understanding who the two trees were and what the relationship was to that menorah, and what the relationship of the menorah is to the Mowedym, and why the two luminaries were the signs of the Mowedym and the first prophecy, and one is knowledge, the other one's life, so maybe there was nothing that could be gained by Israel recognizing, or anybody recognizing, who they were up to this moment. But now we need to know. And so we do know. Therefore, not surprisingly, as we approach the time of Jacob's troubles, and we're not approaching anymore, we're in it, the highly allegorical language throughout the chapter is beginning to resonate with us. And I'm not so sure that is the best term to use. Yeah, there's some allegories here, but the trees are really trees. That's the beauty of the whole thing. Trees are really trees. The menorah is really a menorah. The Malak messenger guiding Zakar'yah through the process was deliberately being, I wrote evasive. He wasn't being so much evasive as he was matter of fact, and he wasn't giving Zakar'yah any slack, because Zakar'yah was a bright man who Yahowah spoke through. And so he was saying, you ought to figure this out. You've obviously studied the Torah. You don't even have to get past the second chapter of the Torah. And the answer is right there. So he just kept on hammering Zakar'yah. You really need to figure this out. You should know the answer here. And so he wanted Zakar'yah to process what he was witnessing and then make the connections between these various symbols that he was presented to deduce their import, their intent, and their identity. And that's what God wants all of us to do. He wants to say, I'm going to give you the clues. I'm going to give you the pieces of the puzzle. I'm going to tell you what you need to know. You put these pieces together so that you go from knowing to understanding. And then you know who I am, who you are, and how we get together. But you got to participate in this. I'm just not going to dump it and say, here's the answer to everything. I want you to think it through. Just like we came up with the 4 reasons why Abraham, Sarah, Yishak, Rebecca, Rachel, and Jacob were not the nicest people in the world. And we came up with the 4 reasons why that was so. That's what he wants us to do, is to think it through. Now, adding to this challenge of resolving the enigma, the Inquisitor had deliberately just awakened his pupil from his sleep. Well, that's symbolic of where Israel is and the world is, right? Which is also germane to the prophecy, because this is currently where we find Israel today. So it begins. Are you ready for this, Kevin? You
Ready.
dialed it up.
I've
You
been.
dialed it up, buddy. Then the heavenly... Yeah, Kevin actually has the toughest job of all, being my co-host 5 days a week for 2 hours on the vlog, which I don't take stupid well. And so we have all these people doing and saying stupid stuff. And I'm usually pretty intellectual in my responses, but really stupid stuff that's contrary to God's people, I get angry. And so, that is a tough job, my friend. Then the heavenly messenger, the Malach, the spiritual being, returned, who had spoken to me, and he roused me in a way that it could be compared to an individual being awakened from his sleep. Zakar'yah, remember Yahowah, the 4th chapter, the 1st statement. Duly noted, Zakar'yah, like all Israelis throughout their history, was not fully awake when the messenger arrived. And without further ado, he was shown a menorah, not unlike the more contemporary interpretations that, presently adorns our set. Well, actually, it's over this shoulder here, right? Everything is reversed on screen, so it's over this shoulder. It's spinning behind me. You can also see it right over. That would have to be on this side over here. There we go. There's there we go. There the menorah. The reason that's so difficult is that it's I'm looking at a screen that actually projects everything the opposite of the way that I see it. I should be better at this. I've done 1,000 hours of it now, so I actually should be better at it. But you're learning on the job. I thought I was signing up to be a writer.
I'll give you some pointers later on.
Okay, thank you.
Give you some pointers later on.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Oh my goodness! So Wookie just laid down on the keyboard of the teleprompter to take us down multiple pages. Thank you very much, Wookie. So here we are. We now know what specifically is being shown to him, and so here you have the menorah, and then he says, and he asked me, "What do you see?" Isn't that what we all should ponder? I'm constantly telling the fellas here in Leah as we meet for we have 2 meals a day here, a breakfast and a lunch, and every time we sit down, I'm saying these are the questions I'm trying to resolve now. For me, it's always want to know why. What's the reason why this is happening? Why was it done this way? Why was the story told this way? And even in the details of the story, what's the reason for them being this way? So he asked him, "What do you see?" That's the right question. What do you see? I replied using the perception of sight, and he said, "Behold, I see a menorah, and it's comprised entirely of gold." Now, he saw a menorah. You think the fact that it was gold mattered? Other than that color is kind of the color of flames of fire. So God's trying to say, I'm trying to convey this illumination to you. It's a very warm color. It's something highly valued by men. Maybe there's a few metaphors of that nature, but the answer would have been quite simple. I see a menorah. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what is God's logo?
Menorah.
Manowrah.
That is God's logo. That is God's brand. It is the menorah. So here he was looking at God's symbol, God's brand, the menorah. It was being revealed first and foremost above everything else. That's God's first and foremost symbol. There you go. You want to know how you are
Right at the
to
top.
brand yourself when you're speaking for Yah. When we had the malcontents go off and do their thing, we had branded everything under a lion, as in the Lion of Judah. And so when this all happens, first thing I do is say, okay, obviously this is something you wanted to happen, and obviously you think we need to go a different direction. I'm all ears. What do you want? I'm happy to do it. You just tell me what you want. And one of the very first things he told me, change the brand. My brand is the menorah. This is going to be a contemporary application of it. We're in the last days. I'll help you design it. I want a contemporary menorah. That's my brand. I want that menorah everywhere. I want it on your books. I want it on your website. I want it on, by the way, you're going to start a vlog. You're going to start speaking to my It'll be the symbol of your blog too. That is my brand. We're going to do this under my brand. Yeah, the Lion of Judah, that's my son. Love my son. But this story is under my brand. Okay. That works. I remember that trying to create it, and I told everybody, this is what I want. And everybody said, well, but let's, no. I said, no, this is what I want. No, I want to try to do it. No, this is what I want. I saw it in my mind's eye. He showed me exactly what he wanted. It's okay. That's what we're going to go do. So it was revealed first and foremost. And there were, how many lights on it?
Seven. Not nine.
Not nine, seven. And it says right here, do you think rabbis can count?
No.
Apparently not.
Apparently not.
Well, ask
loaded question.
Rambam about the number of bones in the body and his pomegranates.
Yes, I know, he can't.
Yeah, he couldn't figure that out either.
All evidence
So
points
there
to
were
no.
Sheba. And the interesting thing about Sheba is it doesn't just mean seven. It means promise.
Promise.
It's the Hebrew word for promise and
Shabbat.
for seven. Yeah.
Yeah,
So there we are.
Yeah.
So there were seven near, which are lamps, not seven candles. There's seven lamps. They're burning olive oil. They're lamps. There's seven near lamps on it. It epitomized the promise of seven. All right. So we know that Yahweh's first and foremost symbol is a menorah. It has seven lamps on it, and it symbolizes the promise of seven. And there were seven metal castings serving as channels and spouts on the lamps, which to show the way to the benefits of the relationship were on top of it. So this is saying that these channels were to conduct olive oil. And that by these channels, they all came together. So that a lot of times you want to say that in the menorah, that center candle represents Yahowah, and then you got other things for the others. But that's not true. It's the base, that Yahowah is the foundation, the base of all of this. But those seven lamps, they represent Pesach, Matzah, and Bakodim, reading right to left. Shabu in the middle, Bakodim, and then Teruah, Kapurim, and Sukkah.
Yeah,
They're the seven.
light the path.
Pardon?
I say, is it fair to say it lights the path home?
Yeah, it lights the path home. They are the 7 steps that you walk from this world to God's world. They are the only path. And of course, you have 2 trees standing, planted on either side of them. One of them is responsible for the spring mikre, the first 3, and the other one's responsible for the last 3. So, it shouldn't be hard to figure out who these fellows are.
Mm-hmm.
So Yahweh's Rosh, first and foremost symbol, is his menorah. It is a ma'or, a luminary comprised of 7 olive oil lights, 3 on either side, and a single illuminated stem in the middle. God, who is akin to light, is represented by the base of that lamp. The 3 spring mikre, Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim, are depicted by the 3 lamps looking from right to left, reading like Hebrew would read, the same direction of the Hebrew writing. And the final 3 near lamps represent the fall Mow'edym, Teruah, Kippurim, and Sukkah, which we're only 7 years away from fulfilling. In the center, the covenant family is enriched and empowered, enlightened, and emancipated on Shabuah. It is the time for the 3rd Zeroah to shine. The oil in these lamps represents the Ruach. The oil is from the olive tree, which is deeply rooted in the land, long lived. The oil is nutritious, serves as a healing ointment, and is used for anointing and provides brilliant illumination. A wonderful metaphor. Key to understanding the first installment of this prophetic portrait is the recognition that Galah means to be revealed, exposed, and uncovered, as well as made known. It's not a bowl. There wasn't a bowl sitting on top of this. You're supposed to figure out the symbol of the bowl. No, Galah means I'm revealing this to you. I'm exposing it. I'm uncovering it. I'm making this known. So scrub your minds of what the bowl that religious institutions would have you believe is somehow incorporated into this design. Correctly translated, we are not struggling to figure out what a bowl is doing hovering above the menorah. And with Galah rendered correctly, we can focus on Yahweh's luminaries, recognizing that the menorah and the me'oroth are the first and foremost symbols of God, above everything else. This is God's logo. To make sense of this, let's turn back to the 4th day of the creation account. Yahweh revealed how the lesser luminary would come to reflect the greater luminary's brilliance because they would work together, he said, as signs of the Mow'edym, restoring witnesses to the eternal appointments. And so this is the beginning of their collaboration and of their story. God said, with the narrative playing out over time, Amar, there will be Me'oroth, luminaries to ponder the implications of light in the expanse of the heavens, to understand the separation between the time of light as it is distinct from the darkness of night, the time of deprivation of illumination and ensuing ignorance that we're still in today. They will exist as wonderful symbols, brilliant examples, and obvious signs, as illustrious exemplars of the consent to offering miraculous proof, oath. For the Mow'edym, the appointed meeting times for the restoring witnesses to the eternal testimony, as well as for days and for years, setting up the very calendar of God. Bereshith, Genesis 1:14. This is in the middle of the creation account. This is the 4th day of the creation account. And you notice nothing is created and there's no mention of the sun or the moon. They're luminaries for the purpose of serving as the signs for the Mow'edym. and to establish God's calendar. Therefore, they will exist for enlightenment as luminaries to support the expansion of the spiritual realm so that more people, more souls can make this spiritual realm bigger and richer. To be an ore light and provide illumination and enlightenment upon the earth. And therefore, it will continue to exist like this thereafter, based upon what preceded it. Bereshith, Genesis 1:15. That is to say to suggest something that I've not come to fully embrace yet. They're still toying with the idea of how old are we really? And therefore it will continue to exist like this thereafter based upon what preceded it. This is the fourth day of creation. We are 3 billion years distant from Adam being placed in the garden. And it certainly sounds like God has got these two luminaries are already part of the family. That they are included in this story, and they already exist. Now, I'm not going there yet. I'm just telling you that's the best explanation I would have for this statement.
I'm going there.
Yeah, I know. Rich has been there first. Rich has been there.
It was my question that drove all the Christians crazy. Why is it plural?
Why is it plural? Yeah, that's what Rich would be. He's been there from the beginning. I'm still dealing with it. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not really sure it matters. It changes much of anything at this point. But it's we like to expose the possibilities. We want to affirm what we know to be true, and then we want to expose the possibilities of other things that might well be true. Anyway, God acted and engaged to a point for this particular task. Think about this particular task. You're going to be crucified on Passover. You're going to go into hell on Matzah, and then represent the exemplars for the covenant family on Mowedym. You're going to have a harvest on Shabbat that is going to require 25 years of devotion. Teruah is going to be the most difficult, challenging, overwhelming day in the history of mankind. And then you're going to bring it all together and actually succeed where no one had succeeded in having a family reunion and homecoming on Kippurim, and then give a mortal remnant a chance to succeed where man originally failed in the garden on Sukkah. So God says he acted and engaged to a point for this particular task. What pertains to these two, Mayoreth, plural of Mayor. It's a masculine title with a feminine ending. And the reason it's written uniquely that way is that when God combines masculine and feminine, he is speaking of something that's more complete, a more integrated nature of the being, so that you're representing the emotion and the productivity of women, and the rationality and the determination, and even some of the muscle of men. You're bringing it all together. So it's Mayoreth. Sources of illumination and enlightenment. Who are Gadolim. They're both substantial. They're both empowering. They're both important. They're both influential. Gadolim. They're intense. They're loud. They're distinguished. They Gadowl, promote growth. They magnify and amplify. They empower. You've got to get accustomed to, God's got a thing for that person that he chooses, or people to speak for him, and they're loud, they're intense. With Gadowl, the greater, more distinguished and older, so he just repeated Gadowl.
Mm-hmm.
Of the Mayor, luminary, Mimshala. Now, it sounds like this is going to be uniquely for the Gadowl, right? He's going to be the one who is Mashallah.
Mhm.
Well, pretty soon you're going to hear God said, well, no, the Qatan Mayor, he's also Mashallah. Mashallah means prominent. And these are the most prominent players in God's story. You don't get more prominent than these two individuals.
Mhm.
Powerful. Having dominion. They have God-given authority. They're the one governing as sovereign from God's point of view. Not sovereign from man's point of view, sovereign from God's point of view. You're wielding God's authority. He says, I've deployed you to do this. I expect you to do this. I've authorized you to do this. I've empowered you to do this. Somebody stands in your way, they're standing in my way. That's what God is saying here of those two men. Leading with illustrative sayings, painting pictures with words. That Mimsala happens to be from Mashal. And one of these fellows would write the Mashal, the Proverbs. Of the illuminated time, Hayom. And so the ultimate play for the Gadowl Mayor is he's for the time of great illumination. He's the one who comes back where his seat of honor, his throne, is brilliant as the sun. He's the one who comes back in Yahweh's presence. He's the one for the illuminated time. And with the Qatan, lesser, younger, more recent, I like diminished manifestation. I've wrestled with every possible meaning of Qatan, and you ultimately come down to two things. It's a mini-me. It's a diminished projection of Yahweh's personality. What it is. Mayor, so the Qatan Mayor, he's also a Mimshala. He's prominent, powerful, having dominion and authority, the one authorized to lead through illustrative insights, and he'll have a predilection for Mashal, the Proverbs, for the time of darkness, which is what we're still in. When the light is not known, every time that he was deployed was a time of darkness. Along with the heavenly powers. Yeah, because he's the one that ultimately is going to be given the command of the heavenly host. The Almighty, he offered them as a gift. By the way, it does not say that the Gadowl Mayor is given charge of the heavenly powers.
No.
It's the Qatan Mayor, because there's a specific thing he has to do with them. The Almighty, he offered them as a gift, placing them in this position for this ongoing purpose. Nathan, they're a gift. They're offered by God. He bestowed them. He appointed them. He assigned them for this opportunity and task. In the vast expanse and extensive nature of the solid evidence of the spiritual realm, they are tangible examples of what we should expect in the spiritual realm. You want to know what God wants with the covenant family? Look at those guys. And one of the things you'll notice, those guys aren't perfect. But ultimately, both guys finished the job. Both guys continue to learn. They continue to grow. They continue to work at their craft. in the spiritual realm, to provide light and enlightenment upon the land and the earth. Govern, showing leadership by offering proverbial illustrative and illustrative and memorable pictures comprised of words. They're going to be wordsmiths. Dowd was a marvelous lyricist. During the light of day and through the darkness of night, they're going to be outspoken, both writers and speakers and singers, during the day and during the night, time of light, time of darkness, providing a contrast to set apart as separate and distinct and to expel and exclude. They're not just there to encourage people to participate. They're there as a barrier. They're there to set a contrast between the ways of religion and the ways of relationship. Their job is to set apart, both to expel and to include, through understanding and discernment, by making intelligent connections leading to comprehending, bien. Speaking of two men who have understanding, not of a sun and the moon, who are inanimate objects. Leading to comprehending the light, in addition to wisely discerning insights during the obscuring darkness.
That's you.
Boy, we're certainly working at that, aren't we?
Yeah.
God, he saw that indeed it was good. This was beneficial. It was productive. That's the tie-in between the Manowrah and the Mow'edym. They're one's an expression of the other. That's how they're symbolized in God's world. You know, we lost Will. He's tried to come back a couple of times, and we're trying to retrieve him. In his concluding narrative regarding the two Maor sources of enlightenment, God discloses the intent of Mashlama by using its root, which is mashal. It has two meanings. One is to govern and to lead, and the other is to convey pictures with words. It is to wield words wisely. And when it comes to leading his people, it will be through the testimony of these men. They will guide as Yahowah has done, using illustrative depictions of what we need to know to get the most out of life. Now, it should be obvious to anyone who is informed and rational that Dowd is the greater luminary, because Yahowah overtly and consistently associates his son with the sun. And he does so in a plethora of prophecies. It's all over. I mean, there are probably 30 of them.
Yeah, Elyon is one of those. When he comes back, it is described as bright as the,
bright as the
brighter.
sun. Yes, and in every one of them, when he identifies his son as the sun, the next line is about the moon and how they're inseparable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even the reference to his kiseh, his throne, will be as brilliant as the sun. Kiseh is also the word for full moon. Mm-hmm. The moon at its maximum brilliance. So we know that Dowd is the greater Maor. And each of them, God immediately connects to Dowd and with Dowd and to someone supporting Dowd, symbolized here as the moon, who would reflect the sun's light, which is their job today. The contrast surrounding these prophecies indicates that the moon has and will continue to reflect the sun's brilliance. And in this regard, there's only one person since the last of the prophets in 447 BCE. Welcome back to the world of the scene, Will. who has done so, and none of them to the extent of Yadah. I mean, and it's by a magnitude of 1,000,000 to 1. So there is no other candidate for this. Dowd is clearly the sun, and there is no other candidate for the moon, for the Qatan mayor. He alone has restored Dowd's reputation, his dignity, and his status, becoming the first to correctly ascertain the returning king's role in our salvation by fulfilling the spring Mowedym, even writing the now 6 volumes of Coming Home to deduce, prove, share these conclusions. We know more about Dowd than anyone in the past 2,500 years, probably 3,000 years.
Only people today using his name, Yahowah and Dowd. You can't find Dowd anywhere else. If anybody's going to try to talk, they're going to say David. They'd be wrong, but
Correct. And they're going to limit him to one life, and he's rotting in his grave. And they're not going to refer to him as the Messiah. No. They're not going to return to him as the returning king. They're not going to refer to him by how he referred to himself as the one who fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Mowedym. They will not refer to him as a prophet. They will not refer to him as the Son of God.
We do associate him with a false symbol as well.
Yes, we do. And prove it. So the king's role in our salvation by fulfilling the spring Mowedym, Pesach, Matzah, and Mowedym, and that is what we have filled the Coming Home series with, and really all of YAHOWAH. Now, frankly, it should have been obvious, because without YAHOWAH, everyone remains unaware of what Dowd achieved and represents. Without the 5 volumes of Twistianity, they remain fooled by Paul, continuing to believe that Jesus was the Messiah and Son of God who was crucified, making him the Savior. Yadah uniquely killed Jesus, disproved the existence of a Mr. Christ, and then demonstrated the myth was the product of identity theft. No one had ever done any of those things. But I didn't leave the world hanging without a savior. After thoroughly disproving the Quran and New Testament in the 10 volumes of Goddamn Religion and Twistianity, I composed 25 additional tomes accurately accessing and portraying Dowd as the one who opened the door to life, who removed our guilt, allowing us to become part of God's family. All available evidence points to Yadah as the lesser luminary. And frankly, there is no other consideration. Not in the past, and there is no time for the future. He's it. Now, in this light, Yadah's intent is to help Yahweh's intent with all of this is to help his creation be in. Make the proper connections between these men such that the open-minded and rational are able to comprehend the interval of time that will play out between this instruction 6,000 years ago and the fulfillment of the Mowedym 7 years from now. With this narrative featured on the 4th day of the creative account, we can deduce that mankind's return to the garden will be facilitated by what they accomplished in year 4,000 Yah, such that our king will return after the lesser luminary returns to reflect his brilliance. But even more than this, by the time we examine the mashal, the last word picture, and assess the mizmor, the preeminent song, the enlightened will know that Yadah has done far more than restore Dowd's reputation, because he also repaired the king's fractured relationship with Yahweh, which was more important still. Although he did it with the Amma, with the maternal servant of God, who happens to be his wife. For anyone who may have been of the belief that God was not being prophetic and he was instead speaking of creating the sun and the moon on the fourth day, well, that's just not possible. Plant life was conceived on the third day, and the sun is much older than the earth. But also, there was no reference to creating anything during the fourth day, not a single use of bara. Further, Hebrew has a word for sun, shemesh, and a word for moon,
Yerayach.
yes, but neither was used. And in this context, the astronomical sun and moon cannot be equated to signs of the Mowedym. Further, the celestial entities do not govern. They do not speak. They do not lead. They do not write. But while there is little distinction between Yahweh's Maor and his Manowrah, the latter is comprised of Sheba, 7, near small containers of olive oil, while the former fulfill the 7 Mowedym, represented by that 7 lights of the menorah. They become a reflection of the other because the Sheba, 7 reservoirs, contain and convey the merit of 7 mikre, invitations to be called out and meet with God. They serve the Shabbat, 7 promised benefits for those who provide mutzka, places for this oil to flow. Now, beyond the 7 Moed mikre, Yahweh spoke of his Choter, stem, growing out of the rootstock of Yishe, which means I am, to stand out and be noticed once infused with his 7 spirits. This caused him to be especially illuminating among men, possessing a profound and complete understanding of God's story from beginning to end. It would also serve to keep him anchored and productive. So all of this is delineated in Yeshaya 11:1, which we'll come back to, but I'll share the opening stanza with you because I think it's appropriate in this context. It reads, a choter, a branch and sucker, from a stump and root, who is productive and fruitful, as well as a rod to purge, will be actively extended for a period of time by means of the original stump and rootstock, the Giza, the source from which new growth emerges, of Yishe, of I am, as a netzer, an observant branch, by means of his roots and that which keeps him anchored, steadfast and nourished, as the parah, the productive bull, bearing an abundance of fruit while encouraging productivity in others. Boy, if it wasn't for the statement that follows, you'd say that is probably one of the most profound prophecies and statements to be found anywhere, and that's just Yeshaya, Isaiah 11:1, and yet it's outdone by Yeshaya 11:2, which reads, the Ruach spirit of Yahweh will settle and remain on him, the spirit of Chokmah, of wisdom, providing the capacity to comprehend and then teach, while enabling Bina, understanding, by making the proper connections to reveal insights. The spirit of Etzah, advice and counsel on the overall purpose of the tree, and of Gabora, being emboldened and inspiring, courageous and combative. The spirit of Diath, of knowledge, as a source of pertinent information. And so as to Yirah, respect Yahweh. Yeshayah 11:2. How is it the world has missed this, misappropriated it, ignored it, rejected it, twisted it?
I have a question.
Where would you find something that profound? Yeah, what's your question there, Kevin?
My question is just to back up for a second. That literally, I never really I understand the word Shemesh and Uriah. Okay, what they mean is sun and moon, but Shem is right in the name of sun. Shem, right? I mean,
Right.
Dowd's second life as Shem. I mean, my reputation, this everything is all about Dowd all the time. Shem, right?
All the time. He is the Shem.
It's literally the
Shem of
sun.
renown. Yeah.
And Yareh, that's teach, right? Uriah is the root from moon to teach, to guide, to show. I mean,
Yes. Even in those two, with Shemek, you have the name of the sun, Shem of renown, and in Yerek you have Yada and the one who knows and the one who teaches.
Yeah.
It's he didn't make this really that difficult, did he? But he made it hard enough that when you find a nugget like you just did, you can be proud of it.
Right.
Really, I mean, it is. He made it challenging enough that when you find something, he smiles and you smile and you get to share it and say, it's been written there the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why did you miss it? Yeah.
Right.
And here I just figured it out. I'm going to share it with you. That is the joy of learning as opposed to the data dump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At the data dump, there is no satisfaction. There's no growth. There's no contribution. There's no achievement. God can't share credit. You can't take credit. You might as well just be God all by himself and robots.
Mm-hmm.
But this way, it's interesting. This way, there's genuine contribution, genuine growth, genuine opportunity to figure things out. Perry, as he said, he's the puzzle maker. He's got a new one on the dining room table that we'll start on again. He and I love puzzles, and he is the mathematician. So his idea of solving a puzzle is you look at the shapes because he's a mathematician. My way of solving puzzles is I look at the colors, and so I'm drawn to the colors, and I put like colors together, and that's how I solve the puzzle. And he puts like shapes together. He organizes them by shapes. Two entirely different ways. They both get to the same result, but
Right.
it's I'm looking at the picture on the pieces, and I want to know how each picture fits into that overall portrait. And he wants to know how the shapes interlock. But
there's no point if you cut open the box, dump it out on the table, and the damn thing assembles itself. There's absolutely no point. That's your data dump.
Then it's a picture with lines in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a picture with squiggles in it.
It's a really
Why'd you ruin the picture with those squiggles? Why'd
You
cut up
guys
your
are both
picture?
being observant.
Yeah, of
Two
course.
different ways
That's
to be observant.
Right, and striving to put the whole picture together so that it's you can view the finished portrait. But it's a process. Yeah.
There's another element you can do this. If you squint, I used to teach people if you're going to draw when you paint, you squint and you see the values much clearer. You can reduce them
Really?
down to about 7 values, by the way.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
then
you're like me. You would you'd go towards the colors and the hues, and you would have that's where you would start. Yeah, and
I'm not as smart as Perry.
yeah, my view is that while I will do, I look at colors and look at how things relate to one another by color and even texture. I always begin the puzzle though the same way. I want to frame the issue. I want to frame what we're doing here. So, and that's the same way you approach God's word. I want to frame the issue. I want perspective on this. I want a finished portrait when we're done. So we're going to begin by framing the issue, and then we're going to get every piece in its proper place. It's a really enjoyable thing to do. So in the case of Zakar'yah 4, there is more to the story than the Choter receiving the 7 spirits of Yahweh. There are 7 references to him being a tree. And what I just read to you, there are 7 references to the Choter being a tree. It was one of the great discoveries ever. When we went back to figure out who the various things are, and then you read, wait a minute, Etz and Esau, and then you read Diath, and then you read everything else that was said about the daggone Choter as a tree. I mean, it's branches and roots and stumps, and it's absolutely unequivocally a tree, and even called it, got the spirit of the tree. And so tying that tree to the tree of knowledge, when it says that he has the Etz Diath, should have been easier than we made it. But still, we beat everybody else in the world. No one else has ever made that connection.
They've had the scroll in the middle of Jerusalem ever since they dug them up. I mean, come on.
Yes, they should have been able to figure it out sooner than this. But we are the first to figure it out, and we can take some pleasure and satisfaction in being the first to figure it out. But equating the Choter to the tree of knowledge is a big deal. One of the things it also means is that the Twistians, who want this to be their man god, who never is presented anywhere, so it couldn't be their man god, but nonetheless they want it to be their man god. Oh, good, he's a tree. I'm delighted to be the tree. But you want to make your man god the tree? That means that he would be your damn cross. He's a tree. Doesn't fit your man god, but it fits the Choter. So the 7 references to a tree. Actually 7, of course. These include that the Choter means stem, that he has Giza, roots, that he emerges from a fallen stump. He is a netzer, observant branch. He is sheresh, deeply embedded in the earth. And he, para, bears fruit. Beyond this, he has the spirit of Etza, which is tree, and Diath, which is knowledge, making him the tree of knowledge. Now, you want to keep that in mind as we move forward. So as we journey through the prophecy regarding the identity and the intent of these 2 olive trees, Yahweh will remind us that his spirit is responsible for their success. By calling them olive trees, Yahweh is not only associating them with olive oil that ignites the menorah, he is affirming the Choter's participation as one of the 2. So one of the 2 is absolutely, unequivocally known. He's the Choter. And the Choter is clearly described. There's only one other person that's ever even figured out who the Choter is, much less meets the criterion for the Choter. And there's another tree. So if there's a second tree, and the one tree is called the Etz Diath, who's the other tree? The Etz Chaim, the tree of lives. So who's the guy that would be responsible for more than one life? Well, the guy that fulfilled Pesach, because it opens the door to life. So now you know who both are, and we haven't even proceeded any deeper into the story. That's the beauty of it.
I must think we're really done.
Yeah. It's taken 25 years to build the foundation.
Let's talk about the world.
The world is. The world really is. But even in our case, it took 25 years to get here.
Yeah.
Now, once we got here, the pieces of this puzzle fall into place very rapidly. It is, Perry and I have done 3 or 4 puzzles together since we've been here. And when you're starting a puzzle, the first connection takes a long time. The second connection is a little faster than the first, and the third's a little faster, because now you have things to attach things to, and you've moved pieces out of the unaffiliated pile into the connected pile. And then once you get a third of the puzzle done, that next third is much faster because you moved even more pieces out of the unaffiliated pile into the connected pile. And that last third's a breeze. And that's where we are. In fact, we're probably in the last 10%. And it goes so much faster. Those pieces just boom, 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 boom. And that's kind of where we are with this putting together the pieces of the puzzle. So he is obviously affirming that Choter's participation is one of those two trees. Further, Teruah, which is the most important day on Yahowah's calendar, is what kind of harvest? An olive harvest. Where do olives grow? On trees. What kind of trees are these? Olive trees. And they, when God had Solomon present the Nachri, what day of the year was he making that speech? We're told. It's Teruah. Teruah is the day of the herald. I mean, this is the way that you go from, boy, that's an interesting possibility, to absolute assurance, when God just, I'm going to give you affirmation after affirmation after affirmation after affirmation. And about the 40th affirmation, you say, yeah, it's okay. You pretty much nailed that one. Okay, well, we can put that into the fact pile and we'll move on to the next fact. That is where that piece really does fit. So it's also instructive to know that in addition to the 7 Moed Mikre and the benefits associated with Yahowah's 7 spirits, there are 7 colors in that rainbow. And that is relevant because the rainbow is the symbol of the covenant. And those covenant colors are red, orange, and yellow. On top, green, symbolic of growth in the middle, and blue, indigo, and violet underneath. And of course, if you look at the menorah that we have spinning, it is Roy G. Biv too. Red, the color of Pesach, because it's a bloody occasion. Orange, the color of matzah, because that's the color of toasted, unyeasted bread. Yeah. Yellow, the color of the sun, as you look, as the sun and the light emerges from Sheol for it. But it's also the color of ripening barley in the field. We've seen many of those fields that are barley in some of the songs. That's the color of it. And then you have green for the growth of the wheat, symbolic of growth in the middle. Blue, indigo, and violet, because we're getting to the short strokes now. These are no longer the long strokes. These are the short strokes. We have very little time left for their fulfillment. And they're the colors of heaven. The color of royalty. So the menorah is Yahowah's witness, God's ultimate luminary. It is why he asked me to include it in all of our branding, which we have done. And from it, we can deduce insights into Yahowah's nature, his plan, and his people. And that is why the 2 individuals represented by the olive trees are stationed on either side of Yahowah's ultimate luminary. The story of the menorah begins with the tree that enables it to shine, illuminating our lives, which is the olive. It is symbolic of Yahowah's people in conjunction with his spirit. And as shared a moment ago, the olive is native to the land of Israel. It is firmly rooted. It enables it to survive even the most severe storms. It is where Yahowah and Dowd are returning. On Kippurim is the Mount of Olives. It is especially long-lived, as are the luminaries. The fruit must be crushed, as they are, before they're productive. Also relevant, pertaining to the Ma'orah, olive oil remains a source of brilliant light, of healing ointment, and of nourishment, and has served in that role throughout time. It is the perfect way to convey truths relevant to our relationship with God. He's really good at the metaphors. There are 2 olive trees because there are 2 luminaries. There's 2 trees in the garden, Gadowl and Qatan. There are these 2 trees in Eden are Chaim and Diath. Hebrew reads right to left. So the olive on the right of the menorah is Dowd, since he fulfilled the first 3 Mowedym. The other one is the Qatan, or the younger one, because he fulfills the more recent Mowedym. And therefore, Yahweh is responsible for fulfilling Shabbat and Teruah to enable Kippurim and Sukkah. This placement is relevant to their lives as God's co-workers and the Mowedym that they fulfill. The text reads, there were 2 olive trees. Of course there were 2. By it. One on the right, of course. We'd start with the one on the right, wouldn't we? Of the revelation, the Gadowl, Galah, I should say, of what is being exposed and known. And the other one, the other fella. Yeah, he's on the left. Zakar'yah, remember Yahowah, Zakar'yah 4:3. So there is another popularly held but less likely possibility regarding these trees, that is to see them representing the 2 witnesses. And I've come to the conclusion that is not true. Eliah is not a tree. There's no connection whatsoever between Eliah and a tree. He's just not a tree. He doesn't fit. These are the 2 trees. Eliah is going to be one of the 2 witnesses. He's a prophet. And God makes it clear he's returning. But he's returning with one of the 2 trees. So, should you want to run with that theory, though, then the name of the witness on the left is identified in the final and last of the prophets, Malachi, that he doesn't refer to him as a tree, he refers to him as a prophet, where we discover that Eliah in Malachi chapter 4, the last chapter, 4-6. And it's interesting there where it says that if God didn't send the prophet, if he didn't help coordinate this, because there's going to be the sacrifice of the Adam of Pra, the only one that's actually practiced that with God igniting the resulting sacrifice. The only one's ever done that is Eliah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So he's practiced at expunging religion and politics from Israel over the exact same sacrifice. And he's got a gift of gab. So he's the perfect one to bring in to do this. And it says, remember, the Torah teaching. Now, it's the Torah where we find the 2 luminaries, isn't it? It's the Torah where we find the 2 trees. Torah teaching and guidance of my associate, Moshe. It's also Moshe in the 18th chapter that told us of Dowd's arrival and his importance. And it is Moshe again who has the prophecy of the Nakar coming in the last day, when the world has devolved back to the conditions of Sodom, and there's a mighty Holocaust that follows. So remember the guidance of my associate Moshe, who, to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, I provided as a set of instructions through him in Choreb for all Yisrael, for everyone who engages and endures with God, including the prescriptions for living that cut you into this relationship, and the means to exercise good judgment regarding the way to resolve disputes. The mishpat are fulfilled through Pesach, Matzah, Bakodim, Shabbat, Teruah, Kippurim, and Sukkah. Behold, I myself will send to you, which means he's coming from Shamayim, Eliah. Name means Yahweh's God. Boy, if you're promoting Eliah, you're in real trouble if you're religious, because there's no Yah in the Talmud. There's no Yah in the New Testament. And Eliah is best known for ridding Israel of religion and politics. So he's not going to take kindly to twist-ins or the Haredi. Eliah, the prophet, not the witness, not the tree. Eliah, the prophet. Before the coming arrival of the exceedingly important and awesomely inspiring day of Yahowah. He has to bring him in before the awesomely inspiring day of Yahowah. Inspiring day of Yahowah. He didn't say that the day that Yahowah is returning with Dowd, did he? That'd be Kippurim. No, the awesome day of Yahowah is Teruah, when everything happens, including the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah, where he will serve as the master of ceremonies. Then he will restore the thinking and inclinations of the fathers for the children, and the thinking and inclinations of the children to their fathers, or otherwise I will arrive and inflict and destroy the earth. There you go.
And
Because
yet,
it
Craig,
is so
you
defigured in
think that moronic rabbis and people who don't know invite this character called Elijah to their worthless, useless Passover seders and open the door for him and have a table. I'll have a table setting for him.
Yeah. And he's the guy that's going to rebuke them. He's going to say that what the fathers have told the sons is pure rubbish. Yeah. And he said if it wasn't for Eliah coming, that God would destroy the planet because of what's going to happen on that day. Mm. Pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm. Very powerful. Which also is a Shabbat, which best work is done on that day. Yeah,
the rabbis couldn't even fathom it because not only is the Shabuah harvest on July 11th a Shabbat, but the great day of Yahowah with the gleaning and then the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah and this all the things that Yahweh is going to do to expunge the world of the religious and restore the earth to the Garden of Eden conditions. He's doing all of that work on the Shabbat. The 23rd and 24th of September of 2033 is a Shabbat, a Friday evening and a Saturday. It's a Shabbat. And when God allows everybody back into the garden, that's also a Shabbat on Sukkah. God does all of his best work on Sukkah. As a matter of fact, the toughest part of fulfilling Chag Matzah 2,000 years ago, when Dowd carried the guilt of Israel into Sheol, that was on a Shabbat. So the religious are really going to be dumbfounded. But God's not doing this for them. He's doing it to exclude them, not include them. The same thing will be true with the political and the conspiratorial and the anti-Semitic. I think that's a pretty good place for us to conclude. We have the man with a voice now actually pictured there, Perry. A pretty spectacular portrait between these trees and the menorah and who's who and all of this, don't you think?
What really impressed me about this whole thing is no detail in the Tanakh of the prophets, the Psalms, should be overlooked. You should be asking why for all of it because it all fits together.
Right. Every detail, every letter of every word.
When I was growing up, I thought, well, why are these stories in here? They're meaningless.
Yeah.
And they're ignored.
Yes.
No, they're not.
They're
every detail means something.
Every letter of every word is painting an incredible and exceedingly important picture. I guess we had Perry so I could hear him, but nobody else could hear him. So what Perry said is that what he appreciates of all of this is that every story in the Tanakh is told for a reason. They all provide the details that help us put together this puzzle and understand it from beginning to end. And I added that it's not just every story and not just every detail of every story. It's every letter of every word.
Yeah. Amazing.
All contribute to this picture. Yes. It's like that picture you have behind you. It's every brushstroke and every color contribute to the end result. And that's how we come to understand when God told the story after story, like what happened in the garden. It didn't do anybody, either of the two individuals in the garden, any good. Didn't do the Nephilim outside the garden any good. Didn't do the children of Israel any good. It wasn't until today that we came to understand this story of the garden and what it really means, and what God caused the fall of man, what Dowd failed to achieve, and what God wanted to achieve with him, and who he was, and how that was going to be rectified over time. It wasn't understood until now, but yet every detail of that story, including the rib, because what the rib says is that he was lethargic.
Yeah.
And because of lethargy is why God nixed it. It was like watching a fish swim around in a bowl. Got boring. And God couldn't resolve that problem. So he came up with a plan to do it. And that's the plan we're studying. And every detail of that garden tells us that story. And every detail out of the garden with Chinook and the two Chinooks, and what happened with them, and how that led to the story of the Nephilim and God's grief over having created man, and the entry into the story of Noah and his wife and his 3 sons, and his eldest son is named Shem, the name of names. And we follow them all the way to they're telling Abraham that he and Sarah are going to have a son, Ishak. And we follow them when Ishak and Abraham are walking to Moriah to fulfill the dress rehearsal for Pesach. And there they are again. It's such a great story. All the details wove together. And then you can say, well, but it says that it's a Na'ar. That's a young man. No, it doesn't. There's nothing young about Na'ar. Outspoken, shaking things up, rustling about, loud, and even withered, which would be old. Things don't wither until they get old. And so every detail of the story, just beautifully told by God. And every one of those clues all points to this same picture that we're sharing with you. And if you're a covenant family, it's important you know it, because you need to teach it. You need to show leadership as a result of it. You need to partner as part of it. You need to engage and contribute as a result of it. But knowledge leads to understanding, and understanding enables productivity. So that's where we are. You made a good choice there, Kevin.
Well, thanks.
Good job.
Yeah. Will, pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, it is. I have a quick question for you, actually.
Sure.
It's Malachi 4:5. It says, "Behold, I myself will send you Eliah the prophet before the coming arrival of this exceedingly important and awesomely inspiring day of Yahweh." The next verse says, "Then he," lowercase h, so we're not talking about Yahweh, "then he will restore the thinking and inclinations of fathers for their children, etc., etc." So can we? So he must be talking about Eliah here, and is
Correct.
and is that what Teruah is? Is it a restoration of our thinking and inclinations of fathers?
Well, certainly the message that Eliah is going to be delivering to Israel is that you have been religious, you have been political, and if you recall, my job when I spoke to you last was that you ought not be religious and political, and all of you who remain religious and political are going to die. That was the last message I left with you. So, fathers, if you care about your sons, you need to stop teaching them to be religious and political. And sons, if you want to live, you need to stop believing what your fathers have been telling you about religion and politics. And that's Eliah's job. Now, is Eliah going to do it alone? No. He's not only has the final witness next to him, who is that tree of knowledge, who will serve as the Adamah Parah, but the entire covenant family is there.
You know, if you're going to do 7 by 24, you need another talker to help you out.
Oh yeah, it's 24/7, day and night, and so it's in Zakar'yah 12. God's very clear that the learned bull here has a contingent of men and women who are not only devoted and supportive of what he's trying to achieve, but also devoted and supportive of Yahudah, of Yahweh and Dowd. And that collectively they work during this time 24/7 to accomplish this change in attitude of Israel, to undo what they have done through religion and politics. Yes.
I'm just going to say, last time Sylvia was in Israel, and she had her boys, they were walking around and looking around and everything, and all the Muslim kids were up there throwing rocks at them. She would love to go back.
Oh, I know. I don't want to go back until God, calls us back, because the religious and the political aspects of Israel and all the Muslims and all the Haredi and all of the twisted Christians and everything else, it's a mess.
Do Malak carry bail money? I was just wondering, if we went back to Israel, do Malak carry bail money?
Yeah,
they could come
bail us out when we're thrown in the clinker. When we return, somebody that would try to touch us and throw us in the clinker would find themselves zapped about as quickly as the fool that tried to get in the way of the Aaron of the Bereth as it was going across the threshing floor. No, we will not. The Malak will be there for sure, and they will be providing protection services. But at this point, we're essentially going to be beings comprised of light that are going to manifest physical bodies for projection purposes. You lay a hand on any of us, that would be a fatal mistake. Aggravate any of us, that would be a fatal mistake. Try to refute any of us, that would also be your last debate. So no, I don't think you're going to have to worry about much of that. I mean, there is a murder at the end of it. The Adamah Parah generally does get sacrificed, but the moment he's sacrificed, his soul emerges as a flaming sword. So he doesn't stay down very long, and God uses that in a very effective way to rid the world of all of those who perpetrated that crime. So it's a marvelous story, well presented. And you even look at the end of it and say, all right, well, it's going to be a pretty gruesome sacrifice. By the time you've gotten there, you've had so much effort, so much dedication. We're going to be working so well, so effectively as a team. All of God's prophecies and hopes and intents are all going to be materializing. You're just going to say, yeah, let's get her done. We're at the finish line now. Let's get her done. And it would be cool. I mean, being bludgeoned to death is no fun, but to rise in the midst of that as a flaming sword,
that's cool.
That'd be pretty cool. That's pretty impressive, really. And then to be at the command of the heavenly host and say, "All right, let's go. Let's go. We'll go get her done, man." It's going to be an extraordinary time. I think that being on the Temple Mount with the tent of the restoring witness and the breeze there, and the Aaron Bereth, the Ark of the Covenant inside, and the great altar that Solomon built is going to be recreated there. And in front of that was something that's called a sea 3 or 4 times. It's a sea of water and a basin, and that'll be there. And we'll have the 10 tablets of stone the original autograph of the Torah.
Letters.
I would think we could actually get Moshe to come and read some of it to us. I think that would be really fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That would be phenomenal.
I mean, what else is he
really
doing at the time? I mean, I think he would. I think he'd enjoy it.
We got to have guest spots.
No one said you
Absolutely.
had to
I hope
come
we have
back.
guest. We have
Get
guest
to reading
speakers.
a little.
I guess
Yeah,
today
we'd like a reading now from Moshe. Would you please all just sit down and be quiet? He's going to read to us from the.
This time, shut up, sit down, and listen.
So yeah, shut up, sit down, and listen.
You might enjoy it if he doesn't have to deal with the Israelites.
Yeah, he'll have a
He's
buffer.
going to love it.
Oh yeah, he's going to love it. It's a buffer. They may try to get to be nasty, but we'll zap the ones that try to speak over him. He won't have to. And no face plants this time. Won't have to run to We'll have him covered. And then we have the jumbotron, the huge moving message board that will be above our heads, and all of it's going to display. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's going to be grand, and it'll be fun to see people try to take shots at us, and come on, you got to do better than that. That was really pathetic. We'll try. Who wants to play next? Step right up, take your best shot. Yeah, Allahu Akbar my ass. Yeah. We're not going to do no hashiming around here. Yeah, no hashiming. Don't bang your head against the wall. It's unsightly. It'll be marvelous. What a great opportunity. It's a great story, well told, and it's coming to fruition. And unfortunately, Israel's going to go through a really rough patch before they this time. But fortunately, if it wasn't for that rough patch, they wouldn't turn back to Yahowah.
Well, I would say in honor of the Choter, Craig, on behalf of Yah and Yehudah, fire and steam, understand what I mean. Listen to me if you want to be part of the glean.
Very good.
We like it. You're going to be the poet laureate for you and Leah. All right, folks. A wonderful way to spend a Shabbat. Thank you for recommending this. Kevin, it turned out very well.
Kevin.
Thank you for hosting our show here, Rich, and for being part of it, Perry and Dr. Jeff. Love you. And Captain Kirk, I'm so excited for you to have that new house. What an inspirational that place that's going to be, and having all that acreage around you and all those trees and that beautiful scenery and that lovely, lovely backyard and all the beautiful architecture that's so inspiring in that home. That is such an upgrade from where you are in the ice box of Carmel with all the calming invasive neighbors. Pardon? 2 miles from what?
No for 2 miles.
Yeah, isn't it just glorious? And I love those aerial shots we saw of it and how it sits into the woods and sits apart from everything else. You actually have some breathing room. And when the sun shines and sparkles off those pine needles and you smell that and the sound of the breeze going through the pines, it's one of the great experiences. You're going to have that every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Great.
It's really going to be, it's going to be lovely. I'm happy for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And continue the great work, Will. Your show is marvelous. You really have a knack for it. You have a really, really good delivery. I'm certain that you're going to be called to do many things going forward. It's a marvelous, marvelous presentation that you're making. I think you chose very wisely to start with the 119th Mizmor with its focus on each of the letters and what the letters mean and how to derive it. I'd love to retranslate that and contemplate all of the insights now that we know we have all the clues down and so much of the puzzle put together. It would be, I think, a marvelous experience to do it.
You do another translation, I'll do another series. There'd be all new insights and.
Oh yeah,
it would be a whole new psalm practically. That's what happens with these new translations.
Yeah, I think we're going to have 1,000 years to continue to do that. We'll continue to be teachers throughout that period. I don't know how things will play out after that 1,000 years, and I can't imagine there still wouldn't be teaching, still wouldn't be learning. Obviously, it'll be lots of exploring, but it'll be interesting to see how we make that transition. We know what our job is for the next 1,000 years, and it's going to be enjoyable.
For sure.
So thank you all. We look forward to being with you again soon. I'm sure we'll have you on the vlog, everybody participating. So we'll have a wonderful week next week. May God bless you all. Good night.
Thank you. Good evening.
Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me. 6 days we work, then we bask. We leave the noise to hear Yah's voice. We listen, we learn, we struggle to know. We walk with Yah through the mikre. Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me.